As I said before, it's the third year we are here to reasoning about policies. So for us, it's important today to go on this common ground of policy, societal questions, because we think that with all the contribution of the speakers, we can join together to imagine the cities of the future in a better way. And in this topic, I asked to come on stage here Sofia Pechin. She's an urban mobility consultant, project manager at TRT Trasporti and Territorio, and she will introduce us to the technical topic as we announced before. Okay, whoop, I don't know why. Okay, perfect. It's you. About the topic of SUMPs. So mostly she will give us a common technical ground to understand better then the position of the cities, of the industry, of the association. So let's follow Sofia detailed presentation, please.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, do you hear me well? Yeah. Okay, hello everyone, it's an honor being here. As introduced, I'll be giving an overview of what are the challenges that cities are facing today, and do this in the lenses of the policy, of the European policy, and what is going on, what are the new targets, and what's been moving lately within the planning perspective of the urban mobility as a whole. I divided this presentation into 4 different parts. I will be talking first on what are the challenges of the cities, and then on the targets that the European Union, the European Commission set, and then I'll be going deeply in the instruments for the planning perspective, so the SUMPs, Sustainable Urban Mobility Plans, and the late revision of the TEN-T regulation that finally sets these plans for many cities as an obligation and not anymore as a promotion. So I'll be going through a few challenges. The first one that I brought here is greenhouse emissions and congestions. Actually, transport is one of the largest and fastest growing sources of greenhouse emissions. And urban mobility is responsible for a large portion, so about a quarter of the total emission of transport-related emissions. This creates a big problem, of course, regarding global warming, and even, however, motorization rates are always increasing. They have been increasing lately in all European countries, with no exception. I know there's also an effort going forward regarding the electrification of these motorization rates, but this is going really slowly, and also the electrification is not always a solution, as this anyway create traffic jams from cars are anyway a traffic jam, even if they are electric. The second challenge that I bring today is related to that, is pollutions. I brought here the example of the PM 2.5, which is one of the most harmful pollutants regarding the health perspective. Although there's been some improvement in the latest years regarding these numbers, still it's a really alarming situation. And around 94% of people in Europe lives in areas that have that are exposed to concentration of PM 2.5 that are higher than those that the World Health Organization recognizes as safe and healthy. Another really relevant challenge is a challenge that the cities are facing is noise. This is also really relevant when we talk about two-wheelers. Road traffic is one of the main sources of noise pollution, both in rural areas and in cities. And actually 20% of the population in Europe is exposed to levels of noise pollutions that are higher than those established by the Environmental Noise Directive, and this share goes even higher to 30% when we consider those that are a little bit more strict, that are the recommendations from the World Health Organization. Another challenge that is very important is fatalities. Actually, 38% of the fatalities in Europe occur in urban areas. I brought here some numbers regarding specific the two-wheeler dimensions. So two-wheelers make 20% of the fatalities in urban areas in all Europe, and this number gets even higher in specific countries. For example, it goes up to 46%, which is a lot. In Malta, or 44% in Greece, and then in Spain, Italy, Cyprus, Portugal, around 33 to 30%. And this actually, the dimension gets even worse when we consider that, when we compare that with other type of vehicles, because two-wheelers have the highest fatality risk per distance travel. So comparing the same amount of kilometers travels, the two-wheelers have the highest risk. These proportions are really depends on many factors. So, for example, weather, also infrastructure point of view, but they also really regards also on the attitude of the drivers while using motorcycles in the city. Last challenges that I wanted to mention is space. Which is in cities we have, especially in Europe, we have a really competing demand for limited space in streets, and cars occupy a lot of streets in the cities, even when they are parked, not only when they are moving, and this, as a consequence, reduces the space for walking, for any other kind of more sustainable ways of moving to a segregated part of the city. This is also very important when it has resistance to, there's a really attached culture in Europe attached to the car. So it's really sometimes controversial also for politicians to make these changes, to push in this direction, because it can be unpopular decisions. This topic is actually really important also for the conference today, as we are talking of the right size of mobility. Our cities are pretty dominated by the car dimension, so this is also a very important aspect of it. Lately, Europe have put together a lot of initiatives and targets. Actually, I did here a quick overview. The new European Urban Mobility Framework, done in 2021, encourage member states to do cities and to push urban mobility for a system that is more safe, more accessible, inclusive, affordable, smart, and sustainable. And there's been a development of these different documents that set a lot of new targets. For example, the Green Deal is asking us to reduce greenhouse emissions by 55% by 2030, and get this number to 90% within 2050. Then we have, for example, the Sustainable and Smart Mobility Strategy that is pushing for more than 30 million more electric cars in the cities, and for zero-emission logistics. Then we have, for example, the cities mission that they selected 112 cities to become climate neutral by 2030, and then to be followed by other cities within 2015. So the Commission is also helping the city through projects and through fundings to push in this direction. There's also the zero pollution ambition, for example, that pushes also to reduce the number of people that are exposed to harm noises in the cities. And to finish this quick panorama, this is not exhaustive, there's many, but I brought some examples here. There's also the road safety policy regarding the vision series that pushes for a reduction of 50% of fatalities and serious accidents within 2030, and for a zero vision within 2050. So, in all this framework, what's the role of SUMPs? SUMPs, for those who doesn't know, SUMPs are Sustainable Urban Mobility Plans. Sustainable urban mobility plans are a document that changed the paradigm. As you know, we had in cities in the 1900s, cities were really car-oriented, and everything was regarding infrastructure. So we were solving congestion with more infrastructure and more infrastructure. By the late 1900s, we start to realize that this was not really a solution, that we were creating also many other different problems, the ones that I just mentioned in the other slides. So in the beginning of the 2000s, the European Commission started to launch several initiatives. One of the big milestones is the Green Paper, which is towards a new culture in urban mobility. And then this has been followed with the guidelines around the SUMPs. So they have been first published in 2030 with the first edition. There's been another edition in 2019. And now, actually, we are working in a new edition that is going to be published really soon, by next month or December. That is incorporating the new trends and the challenges and emerging technologies and the latest trend within this instrument. The SUMP concept is Sustainable Mobility Plan is a plan that looks at the city in a strategic way. It has a long-term vision, so 10 years to 15 years. It doesn't only stay in one political cycle, but it tries to look at the city of where do we want to be in 10 or 15 years. And it considers all kind of transport modes within the city, so public transport, parking, active mobility, walking, cycling, also private motorized transport, so cars and also motorcycles, logistics, and so on. It looks at the city as a whole, and it plans a strategic solution to it. This is a table that you will find in the guidelines that I just showed that really reflects this change of paradigm of how do we think about the cities today. So we went from focusing on traffic to focusing on people and on accessibility and on improving the quality of lives. And we went from really focusing only on cars to focusing on all the different transport modes that I just mentioned. From planning only in infrastructure and measure by measure to planning really and looking at the city at not only infrastructure but also regulation, policies, incentivization, promotion, increasing awareness, safety campaigns, and so on. And it went also, to name some of the others, from the expert planning perspective, so the engineers sitting at the office and taking all of the solution, to really involving citizens, involving stakeholders, and looking at the city as a combined work, because not everything is also being founded by the politician in turn or by the public administration, but also many times by by private investors. And maybe I will go on to the other next slide. This SUMP approach is, as I said, it's really involving different stakeholders. It's a process of planning. Actually, we see the process as in 4 different phases. First, we have the preparation and analysis, where we really understand what are the problems of the city. We do a specific analysis, we consider data, but we also hear citizens, we hear stakeholders, we sit all together and we try to understand really what are the real challenges and opportunities that we encounter in the city. Then we have the strategic development. For the strategic development, as I said, we look at the long-term view, so 10, 15 years. Where do we want to be in 10, 15 years? And we set indicators and targets to understand exactly where do we want to be. Then we have the measure planning, where we define the actual measures, how are we going to reach these targets, and we go from a long-term perspective to a short-term implementation plan. So these measures have to be real and facing also, considering also the finding and the financing that we have in mind. So we don't have to do a huge plan, but we really have to think about something that is realistic and we know that we are going to be able to implement. And the 4th phase is the implementation and monitoring, where we actually work with all parties to implement the measures and to take forward the plan, and we monitor and adjust in the process in order to understand how the things are going and not really wait for 10 years or 5 years. It depends of country to country to think about the SUMP again, but really monitor and see how things are going and adjust if we have to adjust the direction. Just the 2 final slides is to mention that this new revised TRT regulation, the TRT is the Trans-European Transport Network. And in the last year, in June, there has been an update of this regulation, which really makes a difference regarding the SUMPs. This is only one aspect of the regulation, but I wanted to highlight here today is that SUMPs have now passed from being a recommendation from the Commission to being an obligation to many of the main cities in Europe. So the regulation have designated 431 cities that are now called urban nodes that have a specific role, an important role in the TEN-T network, so in the whole system in Europe, and they need to prepare a SUMP following the guidelines that I just mentioned within 2027. And they're also doing this with the support of the national SUMP contact points and with the establishment within the end of this year of the national programs, of the national SUMP support programs, which is preparation for training, recommendation, promotion, and also sharing best practices within each country. And they also have to submit what we call UMI, which is the Urban Mobility Indicators, which is a set of minimum indicators of data that have to be submitted within 2027, also from member states to the Commission to monitor how's the situation in each country. And the last slide is just to mention this European City Database on SUMPs, which is hosted in the Urban Mobility Observatory, where we have now tracked all the situation. Right now, we have identified which are the urban nodes that have already produced a SUMP, and which are the ones that are still on track. So if you are interested, you can always go and have a look to the map, and you will find information, the documents of the SUMPs, so to see the policies that are going on in each of these urban nodes. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sofia. Stay here, because
Thank you, Sofia.
Ricardo has a question for you.
No, it's
Already.
not a question, but thank you for giving us some data. Interesting, really interesting. Not always so positive. You talked about noise, pollution, accidents. I appreciate so much one of your slides, that one about the comparison between the two, the old mobility plans, the new SUMPs. As in the old mobility plans, they talked about vehicles, speed in the cities, and space for vehicles. And now in the new SUMPs, we talk about people, accessibility, and quality of life in the cities. And also the interdisciplinary approach is here really good. And last thing is to develop all the means of transport and the integration of all the means of transport. Thank you, Sofia.
Grazie Riccardo. So